So social media strategy is that basis, that foundation that gets businesses started and understanding why they're doing what they're doing on social media so they can be more efficient and effective in the tactics that they employ.
Yeah, okay. So, Jennifer, I would love to hear more about your story. Can you walk us through your journey and what compelled you to pursue a career in the social media certification industry?
Absolutely. As most business owners know, the trajectory is not a straight line, right? It's ups and downs and twists and turns that we don't expect in our career. And the same is true
Yeah,
for
for
me.
sure.
I started out actually in higher education, sales and marketing and leadership. Spent 12 years in that industry, and back in 2012, stepped out of higher ed and was looking for what my next adventure was going to be. I wanted to stay home a little bit more. I wanted to really increase the value that I was adding into the community and not just, running from campus to campus. And I was introduced to a young man who had started the National Institute for Social Media and was really intrigued by the quality that he was putting together to adequately assess someone's knowledge in social media strategy for a business institution or organization. And I went on, joined on as the business development representative. So I helped build relationships between colleges and universities and the institute. Got certified myself as a social media strategist and as an educator. And then I left for a little bit and I started my own company called Socially Inspired, where we did social sales training and consulting.
Okay.
Then I came back to NISM in 2016 and took over as CEO and owner. And since then, we've just been continuing to build and grow. And the reason I do it really is because I value what we're putting out in the industry. There's so many businesses struggling, to hire the right person. Who has the right skills? How do we identify that? And that's what the National Institute's trying to do, is help clarify who has the skills that the organization needs and kind of validate the credentials that people believe they have built most of the time on their own, right? So really adding that credibility piece and validation and confidence for the individuals.
Mm. Mm. So you talk about social media strategy, and I think that may be something that may not be as common. Like we hear, we're going to do social media, we're going to, post here, this, that, and this and that. What tell us a little bit more about social media strategy.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's the piece that is required, but so very often overlooked. To your point, Rick, we just jump in. Somebody says, hey, we need a Facebook page for our business. And so we just jump in and build it, but we don't really understand why. What's the purpose? Who's the audience? What will our organization gain from this? Or what business objective does utilizing these platforms serve? And so social media strategy is that basis, that foundation that gets businesses started and understanding why they're doing what they're doing on social media so they can be more efficient and effective in the tactics that they employ.
Okay. And how do you, when you look across the, I guess the business world, if you will, what are you seeing? Are you seeing a lot of work that looks like it was done by strategists, or are you seeing more people that are kind of, like we used to say, hunting, pecking,
just trying to figure it out? It's a huge combination.
Yeah.
And I wish I could say that there were certain industries or company sizes that were doing more strategy than others, but it really isn't. It comes down to the individuals managing these departments and how they value a plan. One of the key pillars in a strategy is strategic planning, outlining your organizational goals, identifying your audience, setting key performance indicators. And then from there, you have the other pieces, right? Measuring success, creating that content, managing projects, making sure things are getting done on time. You build an online community. Fantastic. What do you do with it? Right? Like, how do you engage? How do you handle crisis? And then what are the compliance and governance pieces that you need to follow in order to make sure you're not breaking any of the rules, right? So that is really the foundation that strategy is built on. If someone has a strong business background and a strong marketing background, they've probably gone through that process, so they're familiar with it. But most people are so overwhelmed with all the things that leadership wants them to do that they just jump in and they kind of skip over laying that foundation out.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. We see that with businesses, just jump in the pool. It's like, we can do this. We've got a shingle, we've got an idea. Let's go for it. That's awesome. That's awesome. And tell us a little bit about the Institute.
Yeah, the Institute is designed really to help provide a credential for individuals that want to show they understand this foundation building process, this strategy process. So we offer training programs to prepare people who may not be ready, as well as a certification exam that they take and pass. And then once they've passed that, their certification is good for 2 years. And then during that time, they have to do continuing education in order to stay current and relevant. Social changes all the time. We can't just be a one and done, right? It's not just like, check that box and learned what I'm doing. You really need to kind of continually learn and grow. And so those are some of the things that we really focus in on, is that education and that assessment piece, adding that credential.
So what would you qualify as experience in terms of making sure that they are up to date with social media practices in order to retain those credentials?
So we look at a lot of different things when we're looking at continuing education units, and folks can actually find a whole list of qualifications on our website under continuing ed. But it could be things like adding a Facebook Blueprint certification, because that's going above and beyond some of the strategy needed. If you know you're on Facebook and Facebook ads is what you need to do in order to meet your goals, then earning that certification and understanding the more tactical changes there can definitely qualify as continuing education. Might also be conferences or webinars, classes, as long as they are in those 6 content domain areas that build that foundation of strategy, they should qualify for CEUs.
I love that. I love that concept because it proves to employers or like to HR departments that you have this certification title and you have it and you have to continue retaining it, which means that you're always up to date with a chance. And I'm trying to compare that with like college degrees, for example, with marketing degrees. I'm curious to know about your thoughts on the value between having a marketing degree versus having social media or marketing certifications, for example. So if you're an HR person, would you say that one would be more valuable than the other? Because like, for example, college degrees, once you've got it, you'll have it forever, right?
Absolutely. So that is the $1 million question. And the best way that I can describe it is this. Not all degree programs are created equal. So if hiring managers really want to understand what a student has learned in their undergraduate or even graduate degree programs, they're going to need to dig down a little bit deeper. Traditionally, in higher education, things move a little slower. So they're very theory-based and oftentimes aren't as good at applying strategies to tactics. So it is a little bit of false positive, right? I'm not going to say that a marketing degree isn't valuable because I believe that it is, but I do strongly believe that an industry certification, whether it be in social media or another area of business that requires continuing education and an assessment, there is huge value, and there is the ability to really prove relevance and current understanding, right? Not just what you did 20 years ago when you took your marketing degree. So I think they can work really well hand in hand. And we actually partner with several colleges where we offer the certification as a value add to the degree program that folks are in. And it's just one additional way to give students some of that more applied knowledge, bring that connection between what they've learned and what the businesses are going to need from them together, and then keep that current or continuous flow of communication and education going.
Do you offer are the certification programs like primarily online, and can like someone that's not local to you, I guess, just pop in and take it, or how does that work?
Yep, absolutely. So the exam itself can be taken whenever someone feels prepared, and it is a fully remote proctored exam, so it can be done anywhere in the world. It is only offered currently in English, so the person taking the exam must have fluency in English, but it is remote proctored. So as long as they've got an internet connection, a webcam, and a microphone, they can go ahead and take the exam. We know that very few people are going to just go take a test because there's fear of failure, right? So you want to prepare in some way. And so to your question, Rick, yes, we offer a variety of training programs that are all offered currently online. So some of them being self-directed and some of them being instructor-led, but all via virtual tools.
Cool. Awesome. So, I guess a general question about social media, and I know this is a question a lot of people have had, what are I think perhaps, or let me just say it out. What are the benefits? What do you see as the benefits of social media, like just in general? I mean, everybody's encouraged to go, set up your accounts, like you were saying earlier, but what would one expect as perhaps like a return on investment if it's done properly?
Yeah. So the reasons why organizations might utilize social media can vary pretty substantially, but the benefits are still there. So whether you're trying to sell a product or get donations or hire talent, right? Social media platforms can build awareness for what it is you're trying to do in your organization. It can connect you with people in a wider geographical area than what you maybe are used to, right? A mom and pop storefront. Now, if they use social media, can start doing e-commerce if they want, or shipping to various places across the country or the globe. So it really kind of expands. If you're looking for a talent pool, it can help build some interest, some understanding of what your organization has to offer and why they might want to work with you, right? So there's lots of value. I would say that some of the key pieces, first of all, is that building a larger, broader network of people that you want to connect with. I don't want to say it's free because somebody has to manage it, right? So you're paying somebody, but the cost for each lead or each inquiry can be substantially reduced over traditional marketing mediums. And it allows for us to connect where our audience is. The reality is people are not going to their mailboxes and waiting for a draft letter of direct mail, get excited about a new product or service. They're online talking in mostly a phone medium, right? And so they want to connect with brands and organizations that are where they are and talking to them in the ways that are important to them. For small businesses, it also narrows the discrepancy between what they can do and makes them more on a level playing field with some of those big organizations that have millions of dollars to spend in advertising, because you can build that credibility, that connection, that community organically online.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
That being said,
What are
can you walk us through what a general but recommended uh, social media funnel would look like? Like, how does a lead go from being completely unaware of your business to actually getting converted and, not come across as being too salesy?
Sure. That's going to vary, right, based on the medium and the platform and your desired outcome. But let's just take maybe a general sales lead funnel and talk through that, right? So once you've identified the platform that you want to
Yeah.
use or the social tool that you want to use, it might be as simple as placing a small ad to build awareness. Let people know you're there by targeting certain audience groups, right, that have interest in certain industries or services. Then it's important, once they engage with that ad, to remarket to them, right? Provide them the next step. Is there a free download or an ebook or something that can continue to keep their interest that you can offer to them that has a low barrier of entry? Once that happens, now you have a lead, right? You have a name, perhaps an email, phone number. And that's when you can either continue the conversation online or start to add that to your traditional sales funnel, where maybe you follow up with an email campaign or a phone call and really integrate that journey throughout the process.
Hmm.
I love that. That is a good step-by-step framework to follow. In a previous episode, we actually sat with Joe Yazbek. He's an expert on personal branding, and we we talked about how you can win your audience trust by building an authentic connection with your audience. And unfortunately, that is something that is often neglected. So my question is, how how personal should you go on social media? Like, where do you draw the line?
That is such an amazing question. And I have conversations and do exercises about this actually quite often with organizations. It is important to think through a couple of things. Where are you interacting? Because how personal you are can depend on what platform you're on. So for example, LinkedIn is an amazing platform for business and professional networking and collaboration, but they don't want to know what you did last weekend, right? They don't really care that you were out boating or that, your kid finished some t-ball game or whatever. They want to understand what is happening in the professional space there. So you can share personal stories, but they should be relevant to the business brand and the professional outcomes that you're looking to achieve. Where if you're an individual personal brand on Facebook or even Twitter, they expect a little bit more transparency between your business self and your personal self. Let me use Twitter as an example, because most people shut Facebook down and just use it as, their friends and family network, which I think is fantastic. But Twitter, I'm very active on Twitter, and you probably see more personal updates from me than you do business updates. Mm. But my personal updates are oftentimes business related. So for example, I asked a question recently about what does someone find to be an absolute must in a social media policy document, because I'm writing a new class on the topic, right? So it's building my authority a bit by sharing with people what it is I'm doing, but it's also engaging that conversation. They can speak with me. We can go back and forth and communicate on what's valuable. When my kid got his Eagle Scout, I posted that on Twitter as well, because that's something that we can all learn from, right? Perseverance, dedication, hard work, the things that it takes, and, like 12 years to earn that, from being a Cub Scout to an Eagle Scout. And so there's different things and different levels, and you have to go where you're comfortable and think about the platform.
What are 4 myths that people have about social media?
4. Okay, let's see. I got to pick only 4, huh?
Put you on the hot seat. Hot seat.
No, number 1, it's free. It's not free because there's human capital involved in this. There's a person spending their time to create the content and engage, and that does cost money. So we have to think through that. There are also resources you might need. A phone, a laptop, maybe a video camera, right, to record, or editing software. So you need to really think through, what is that cost for running on each of these platforms? That leads me to number 2. You have to be everywhere. Please don't, right? There are more than 3,000 social media platforms worldwide. You cannot do even a small fraction of those well. So figure out where your audience is, how that platform can help you reach your business goals, and then choose the ones that you can feasibly do and do well. Let's see. 3. Everybody's going to talk negative to me if I'm on social. That's not true. Businesses are scared to death of negative reviews or negative comments. And the reality is most of the time, there's a lot of positive happening on social media. Education, uplifting, reviews and recommendations that are positive. But if we don't pay attention to the conversation that's happening, we don't know when something does go not in our favor. And then the 4th one is that you need one person to manage all aspects of your social media marketing. No one person is going to be fantastic at writing copy, creating and editing video, researching and analyzing data, presenting that up to your C-suite. I mean, like, there's just so much that might be involved in this process. So you really need to think through, how many people do you need, or when can you outsource, right? You might have somebody who's really great at writing copy and scripting for videos, but maybe the editing piece needs to be outsourced to a contractor so that that one person is not completely overwhelmed and bear down with too much weight.
Oh, those are great. Is there one more?
I think that was 4, but I can give you the last one if you want.
Give me one more. These were great. These are great.
Let's see here. So the last one I'll give you is that the younger the person, the better they are at social media. This is absolutely false. A lot of organizations have successfully brought young folks on to help manage social media, and they've done a great job. But the reality is there are that many who have also done that and had folks who didn't understand the business acumen and where the line between personal and professional from a brand perspective comes into play. So just because they're young doesn't mean they can master this, or without proper education, right? They can master it probably with proper education, but just because they're young and grew up with social doesn't mean that they're going to be your social media savior.
Got it. Great. I love those. I think the young person, in social media, it's kind of pops out. We've had a number of those conversations. So cool. Awesome. One of the things you had mentioned, kind of breezed by, was social listening. Did I hear that?
Mm-hmm. You did.
What is that? Tell us about that. Why is it important?
Yeah, social listening is simply a construct that says you're paying attention to what people are saying about you or your industry online in the digital space. You can go very detailed and, buy some sort of listening software that helps pull in keywords or hashtags and tell people, in your team, this many people are talking negatively about you today, or here's something you should respond to. Mm-hmm. But you can also do it very organically, just going to the platforms that you're on, doing some searches for your brand name or product name, find out how people are responding. Are they asking questions that maybe you should be joining in on? It can actually be used, social listening can even be used as a prospecting tool. Let's say you are a moving company. out of Tampa, Florida. Well, you can search for the words moving and Florida and see if people are saying, hey, I'm moving to Florida. And you can actually engage in that conversation. Have you picked your moving company yet? Or what moving company are you going with, right? To help that move. It was amazing to me just, oh gosh, it was November of last year. My son and I were on a road trip to Texas A&M where he's attending school in the fall. And I tweeted it out. Picture of us, road trip, tag Texas A&M. And I was super impressed. Goodyear must be following the hashtag road trip because they responded with a positive, have a safe trip.
Oh, wow.
Goodyear tires, right? It was a complete and total example of paying attention to who's talking about your industry and space that might need to have a refresher on the fact that you exist, right?
Wow, that's cool.
It is cool. It was a lot of fun too, right? Like to see those brands kind of jumping in and engaging.
Absolutely, absolutely. Where do you see what kind of trends are you seeing, and where do you see the industry going?
That's a good question. Video continues to escalate and be used more and more often. In the last week or so, we've been seeing a lot of scuttle or conversation about platforms taking more of a focus on a TikTok type video or imaging system. I do think video is going to stick around. I mean, we want to see people, not just hear from them. So that is a trend that I think will continue to stay. The way those videos are done and whether or not they're going to be, TikTok to music and dancing, is yet to be seen. But I think video is still strong. Outside of that, we are also getting to a point where we have to figure out how social can be accessible to more people. So, for example, if we're using images and videos, what are the alt texts that we're writing to help clarify someone who is visually impaired, and give them the information that they may need, even though that it is not a text post, right? So that is a huge trend that I think we need to really push. Another one is maybe a little less social media and a little bit more employee focused. And that is burnout is real. And we're seeing it increase for content creators, social media managers, and strategists across the industries. We need to value those folks and their mental health. They need to be able to unplug and have someone else manage listening for a little while and responding for a little while instead of trying to be on 24/7 in case of a crisis. It's just not feasible.
Yeah. Wow. Do you see anything happening with VR, with virtual reality with social?
I think VR, AR, voice, like your Alexa systems and things, those are all going to play a factor at some point. I think it's far enough out that the smaller business owners don't necessarily need to worry or stress about it right now. But it is something we should keep an eye on for future. If you have big budgets, it can make things a lot of fun. It can provide some really great engagement between you and your customers. But right now, I think that's something that's still far enough out that we just know it's there and we watch it and how it best fits our organizations.
That makes sense.
Cool. That's going to be awesome.
So do you think there are like specific platforms that are popular today, but will likely be phased out at a specific time or at a certain point of time in the future, maybe due to reduced traction, that sort of thing? I know Facebook has declined quite a bit in terms of like younger markets moving to Instagram for social communications.
So my magic 8-ball is broken, but that is a fantastic question and one that we all want to know about, right? Like we all want to know if we're spending time and money on Facebook, is it still going to be around? You're right. the younger users are navigating away from Facebook, but Facebook is still the largest platform out there, and it owns Instagram and it owns WhatsApp, right? So those platforms are large as well. And I don't see Zuckerberg shutting Facebook down anytime soon, right? There are probably tons of platforms out there that will sunset before the end of this year that we've never even heard of. I don't know personally, which one I would say has the biggest opportunity to shut down. I know I don't care for some platforms over others. And I know that in certain marketplaces, certain platforms are utilized more. So for example, I mentioned WhatsApp. WhatsApp isn't really used a lot here in the US, but it is used in international countries all the time, probably more so than Facebook or Twitter. So it kind of depends on the evolution. I do see something interesting happening though, with all the platforms trying to be like the other. We're going to end up with people being bored at some point. And so I think it's going to be invaluable for organizations to really think about their differentiating factors. Twitter has always been that short and sweet content news medium, real time. As long as it can continue to nurture that and really build growth and development in that community, I think it's great. If all the other platforms try to look like each other, it's going to cannibalize them, and people are going to go to the user interfaces that they like the most or where their audiences are spending time.
My MySpace account, is that still out there somewhere?
People tried to revive MySpace during COVID, but I don't think it came back. I know mine is not open.
I don't even have a MySpace account.
Well, it's kind of fun.
I used to have Friendster.
Friendster.
Oh, there you go.
Oh my goodness.
Well, there's a great case study that could be done on Periscope, Meerkat, and that launch. So Meerkat was the first kind of audio publishing tool that came out. And it was launched at South by Southwest, and then Twitter launched Periscope, its rival, like a week and a half later. But because it had a large brand like Twitter behind it, Periscope still exists. Meerkat doesn't. And so I think we're going to continue to see things like that happening. And now what Twitter did, Periscope still exists, but it's implementing Twitter Spaces more as far as that audio content goes. I think they'll keep revolving and changing things slightly, but unless somebody can come up with something super unique, it's going to be hard to knock some of those big players out of the space.
Yeah, I would think that. Sure. One last question. You had mentioned, and it's a great big question. You talked. One of the other things that you'd mentioned was data. And so as business owners, I mean, what kind of data should we be looking for, monitoring? What's going to be most important for us to understand, so that we know that we're moving in the right direction?
I love that question. And almost always it is not the answer people expect. So the numbers you should be watching are the ones that can accurately address the goals that you have for your organization and how social media is using them. Forget about follower counts, forget about likes, and focus in on those maybe conversion or actionable metrics that can actually lead to the results that you're looking for. If you're wasting time worrying about the lack of followers that you have, you're simply wasting time, right? You can have 10,000 followers and still no one supporting your brand. You got to have the right followers. 1,000 active, engaged followers are going to be a lot better than 10,000 who don't even care about what you offer. So forget those vanity metrics and focus on those things that help you measure your key goals and objectives.
Yeah, I love that. I love that you mentioned that, because that kind of reflects the type of scenario where you post something could be about your vacation or like a sensitive life experience, but even though that kind of material garners loads of likes, if that if that doesn't correlate to your business or your organization, which is supposed to be your primary goal, then it's virtually useless, as opposed to distributing valuable content with a fraction of those likes but are actually converting people. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. And likes are not that's exactly what I'm saying. I love that, Hazel. And the other part to that is just because they're not liking a post doesn't mean they're not taking an action on that post, right? Yeah. We don't, I mean, in the back end, you can see how many people have clicked on a link or a lead form that you've added to that. And you can see that conversion and metric, but you're not going to see it on the front end, right? You're going to not know that even though there were 10 people who liked that post, there were 20 people who actually followed through that call to action and took some sort of a step to move themselves along that journey of purchasing. And so it's important to look at those deeper metrics and forget about those things that make you feel good.
Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. Good stuff. Great. So if anyone wanted to join you at the Institute, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, the best place to go for additional information and to get started is the website, which is nismonline.org. If they have questions before they want to dive in to that material there, they can always find me on Twitter or LinkedIn. Radke Jen or Jennifer Radke works. We also have business accounts, NISM online, for the major platforms. So we open questions all the time, and we love having that conversation because we want to make sure that what we offer is right for what their needs are.
So you guys are drinking the Kool-Aid and you're on social, huh?
Absolutely.
Well, Jennifer, thank you so much for joining us. This was great. It was very informative. I certainly have my notes and some clarity on a bunch of things. I'm sure Hazel does as well. So thank you so much for joining us.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having me. It was awesome to talk with you both.
Awesome. Folks, thanks for watching or listening to another episode of Epiphany Off the Cuff. We look forward to seeing you in our next episode. Take care now. Thanks for watching another episode of Epiphany Off the Cuff. Please make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you know when the next episode is going to drop. And don't forget, we're on podcasts as well, so you can catch us on your favorite podcasting platforms. We look forward to seeing you on the next episode of Epiphany Off the Cuff.